Y'all know what time it is. There we go. Yeah. Oh. Pin that thing down. Okie dokie. Chapter 12 was long for no reason. Like, how he gonna put chapter 12 so long in between two short chapters?
Then when I was thinking about adding an extra chapter, I was like, nah, we better not.
Yeah. But then chapter 12 is just pretty much about him.
His career?
Yeah. Black Power, everyone. Welcome.
Black Power.
Welcome.
Like and share, please. Share in all your groups. Come on in the room so we can get started.
Black Power, everyone. Good morning. Good morning.
How y'all feeling?
Come on up in this room. Let's get this political education started. So, what did you have for breakfast? Nothing? Girl, I'm sorry.
Oh, I had a smoothie on the way down. I totally forgot about it.
This last night, like I was out driving Lyft, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just had this overwhelming urge to go to Tropical Smoothie, child.
Did you? Were they open?
I found one that closed at 10 o'clock. But I had to drive all the way from Midtown to Sandy Springs.
And you went there?
Yeah, I definitely went.
That's what's up.
Let me tell you something. The best smoothie that Tropical Smoothie has is the Sunset Sunrise. It has pineapples, strawberries, mangoes, and they use orange juice to sweeten it. But don't get orange juice. Get the kiwi sweetener and add peaches to it. Oh,
that sounds delicious.
It is so good.
What's it called?
Sunrise Sunset. But yeah, next time you go. All right, y'all. We're going to go ahead and get this thing started. Red says, this is 2 weeks in a row that I've kept up with reading. I'm on a roll. Let's do this. Black Power. Black Power, GG.
Black Power.
Well, anyways, happy Sunday to everybody. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Revolutionary Book Club with your boy, Dia, and my comrade, Nyah.
What's going on?
All right, y'all. So right now, as you can see, we are currently in the middle of reading Revolutionary Suicide, which is the autobiography of the late, great Huey P. Newton. And right now, we're already up to chapter 12 in the book. Well, 11 to, well, we're reviewing 11 through 12, but as you can see, we're moving through the book. Black Power, Robert. Thank you for sharing, Gigi. And if you're just tuning in to the Revolutionary Book Club for the first time and you would like to read along with us, please let us know in the comments and we can get you sent the free PDF to Revolutionary Suicide, because we want all of our people, we want all black people, all colonized people to be able to participate in the Revolutionary Book Club and to get this political education. As I said, today we're going to be reviewing chapters 11 through 13, I'm sorry. So, yeah, we're going to get this thing started, but I also want to let you guys know that the Revolutionary Book Club does serve as a revenue stream to bring in resources to Black Hammer and to the book club, so you can support Black Hammer, which is a grassroots revolutionary organization which me and Comrade Nyah are both a part of, and we would like you to become a part of too. But just to keep our campaigns going, to keep our food drives going, anything that we have going on, please donate, show your support. You can go to gofundme.com/blackhammer. That's GoFundMe.com/BlackHammerOrg. I'm sorry, all one word. And you can also donate to the book club through Cash App by going to BHBookclub, typing in. I think you got to use the dollar sign or whatever, and then so it's $BH Book Club. And you can also go to blackhammer.org and check out the donation features that we have there as well too. So you can support any way possible.
That's right.
Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into our first chapter, which is chapter 11, and it's entitled Brothers on the Block. And I just want to say that it's a very fitting title for chapter 11. It's exactly what it says. In this chapter, we have Brother Huey, who was speaking about, the brothers, like, none of the campus organizations that he is involved with on his campus college deals with, any of the conditions, faced by the black community. And as he told us earlier, the college that he's attending is surrounded by the black community. But here it is, you have all of these, so-called black organizations at this school who aren't addressing the problems, the conditions of the black community, which the school is situated in. So he speaks about that. And he speaks about seeing, some of the brothers that he hangs out with on the corner, they're getting married, they're having babies and stuff like that. But at the same time, he can also see that they're headed for the same path that his father took, and so many black and colonized fathers take, working day in and day out, 3 to 4 jobs just to try to survive, and can't really, break that ceiling. And he referred to it as an urban plantation, really.
Modern day sharecropping.
Yeah, modern day sharecropping. Like, no matter what you do, you're always going to be in debt, to this colonial system, to white imperialism, no matter how much you may work, and, all of that stuff. So he speaks about that and just the importance of the street brothers. And, even though at this point in time, Comrade Huey hasn't really laid down the solid foundation for the Black Panther Party, he already has an understanding of what sector of our community that needs to be reached.
Absolutely.
And, even when you go to different college campuses, a lot of our brothers and sisters aren't there to take those skills and to bring them back to the community. They're there to escape the conditions of our community. And I can say that at one point in time, that was me. And, it's looked at like, if you're in the hood, you living in the hood, if you're able to go away to college, then you become this neighborhood hero and, stuff like that. But again, a lot of, our brothers and sisters go away to school so they can have like that competitive edge within the white corporate world, and things of that nature. But even still, it doesn't address, the conditions that we face collectively as a people. You're just, moving as an individual to boost yourself up, versus participating in something that is going to, elevate the community out of the conditions that we face. And that's not to say that if you want, you can go away to school as long as you have the mindset that you're going to get these skills so they can be used towards the liberation of African and colonized people.
Absolutely. My best friend today, her and I went into the same field. And one of the things, even before I was there, years ago, over a decade ago, she would always say, whatever it is that I do, I want to be able to take it back to my community. And that that was, like I said, over a decade ago. And she had that mindset that she wanted to do something for her people, and she didn't want to leave the hood or leave her community behind when she finished getting her degree. She wanted to put whatever efforts she could back into the community.
Yeah.
And that I will always respect.
That's what we have to do. And it's just unfortunate that we as African and colonized people, that we don't have our own institutions to send our people to receive a higher education. But we understand that in the meantime that we can go onto these college campuses, collect these skills and then bring them back and exercise them within the community. So yeah, and I just think that is really, I just really like how Comrade Huey in this chapter does speak about, the brothers that's on the corner, the sisters that's on the corner, those being some of the most downtrodden, spat upon sectors of our community, because, here it is, we have our brothers and sisters out here, committing crime according to what imperialism has laid it out to be. But when you get down to the most simplest terms of the whole situation, these brothers and sisters are just trying to survive. And just like Comrade Huey says in this chapter, that he always makes it a point that if he's at a party, if he's just standing on the corner, he's going to make an effort to rap with these brothers and sisters to teach them something, even if
education.
Exactly. Even if it's just reciting poetry, or just discussing some type of philosophy that that he's learned, and he wants to turn that knowledge over to the brothers and sisters on the corner. And if you call yourself an organizer, if you call yourself a revolutionary, you understand that is where the heartbeat of the revolution is. It's not on these campuses, where you have these aspiring, black intellectualists and, all of these other, different forces who only want to forward, not forward, but to only, pour their skills into white power. That's not where the revolutionary. That's not where the revolution is. It's where the people. It's with the brothers and sisters on the corner. Absolutely. It's with the brothers and sisters that you see stealing out of Walmart. To be keep it 100. Yeah. To really keep it 100. It's with the brothers and sisters that you see, selling them nickels and dimes on the corner and things like that. And the only reason why we feel some type of way about that is because of what white imperialism has told us about those brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
But we have to look beyond that and even understand that the most deadliest, drug kingpin within our communities, they deserve a chance of political education. They deserve a chance to overturn their relationship that they have with the community. It's based upon if that brother or sister is, invested and willing to overturn that relationship to the community, then that's a whole different story. But you always have to see it as, trying to win somebody to that revolutionary understanding. Absolutely. And if you can't, then just like we said last week, everybody's not going to be one to the revolution.
Yeah. It's so everything you just said I unite with totally. And it's just crazy that, we have to, what I look at it is you have to try to provide insight. Because a lot of people don't realize while they're doing this, when you stealing from Walmart or whatever like that, why, first of all, you need to understand why it's happening. I could give a damn about stealing from Walmart, whereas before I used to I don't know why anybody would want to steal. Why would you want to do that? And now I'm just like, no, fuck these institutions,
right,
these conglomerates that steal from us.
Right.
But I want my brothers and sisters to know why they're doing it. You are rebelling against a system that has stolen from you. You don't even realize that's why you're doing it. So that is so important, is for us to understand why this is happening, why we're rebelling against the system in the first place.
Yes.
And it's justified.
Yes, it's most definitely justified. So what else does he cover in this chapter? I know he speaks about, the disconnect, once, say me and Nyah, we've been hanging out on the street corners, we doing what we got to do to survive, and then Comrade Nyah just ups and decides that she wants to go away to school. She wants to go away to college. And Comrade Huey speaks about the disconnect that, that he saw with a lot of the brothers that he would hang out with on the corner, and then they would decide that they wanted to assimilate into the system, and just how awkward that was for him. And then he also speaks to, at the end of the chapter, in 1965, what he says is his first interaction, well, his first time standing up to the pigs, which involved like this white driver sideswiped a brother's car or whatever, and so they basically got into an argument. The pigs was, of course, siding with the white guy or whatever, and Huey at this time he wasn't completely involved in reading law, as we'll see later on, but at that point he did have some type of understanding. And he went over there, he confronted the pig and things. I don't think he says what happens to the brother who was involved with the accident, but he does let the pig know that just because you got a gun and all of that other bullshit, it does not intimidate me. I'm not afraid of you, and all of that other good stuff. So
yeah, that was really powerful.
Yeah.
And I remember when some of these things had started, like we were seeing video after video of somebody being harassed by the pigs. I made it a point to start stopping up the street to watch, to see what was happening, and that's something that I still feel like we need to do.
Yeah.
Because if there's people, if we're taking care of us, then I think that not that things won't still happen, but it's less likely to happen if they feel like we're, not beyond running up and saying, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing?"
Right. Exactly. And I mean, that's just what the Black Panther Party used to do.
Yeah.
But they had rifles with
Absolutely.
them. We just got to get the rifle.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's go ahead and move on to our hashtag Read That Back Parts for Chapter 11. If you have a hashtag Read That Back Part for Chapter 11, please put it down in the comments so we can open it up for discussion real quick. And Black Power to everyone who has joined in the time since we've started. Please make sure you share. Put hashtag shared in the comments when you share the video. So
Black Power.
Black Power. My hashtag Read That Back Part comes in the beginning of chapter 11 on page 74, starting the last paragraph, starting at the bottom. Black Power LaDonna. LaDonna says, yes, y'all warms my soul to see young people engaged in taking action. Black Power. Alrighty, so it says, the Street Brothers were important to me, and I could not turn away from the life I shared with them. There was in them an intransigent hostility towards all those sources of authority that had a dehumanizing effect on the community. In the school, the system was the teacher, but on the block, the system was everything that was not a positive part of the community. My comrades on the block continued to resist that authority, and I felt that I could not let college pull me away, no matter how attractive education was. These brothers had the sense of harmony and communion I needed to maintain that part of myself not totally crushed by the schools and other authorities. Black Power, thank y'all for sharing. I just think that was so, so powerful. And, prior to political education, we don't understand what we see when we look at brothers and sisters out here on the street corners. We just, because again, the ideology that has been fed to us by white power and white imperialism, we just see thugs and, gangsters and all of that different kind of stuff like that. But as Comrade Huey says, these brothers had a sense of harmony and communion. A sense of harmony and communion. And, you're not going to find that in a college education. Because with the college education, you're only being further indoctrinated with white imperialist ideology. That is only going to alienate you further from, the rest of the masses of African and colonized people. And ultimately place these in your mind that you don't even want to deal with, other brothers and sisters and, our brothers and sisters of other colonized communities. Mm-hmm. Black Power.
Black Power.
What's your hashtag? Read that back.
Well, I had a few, but I'm going to go with the one that starts on page 77, bottom of page 77, going into page 78, where, we were talking about how he goes and he does the rap sessions and how he would be trying to bring So political education. So he said the dudes on the block still thought I was out of sight and sometimes just plain crazy. One of the reasons for the crazy label was because I always did the unexpected, a valuable practice in keeping your adversary off balance. If I knew that some guy wanted to jump me, I would go over where they hung out. And then he goes into how the street philosophy also crept into his academic work. The brothers were also hostile toward the police because they were always brutalizing and intimidating us. So I began to study the police science in school to learn more about the thinking of police and how to outmaneuver them. And I like that because it's like, a lot of times people think, well, we don't need to, know all that shit about law enforcement. But the reason why you would want to know it is because sometimes you can beat them at their own game.
Yeah.
Because, when you don't, Huey never disconnected himself from the streets or from the community. To the point where he allowed the knowledge that he gained to benefit him and his community, just like he did when he stood up to the pig, when he witnessed that cracker sideswiping that brother's car. So, yeah, use that to benefit your community.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get into some of these comments. We have Brother Will who says, oh, hold on, we got Gigi, #read that back. She says, the gun did not mean anything because the people were going to get guns of their own and take away the guns of the police. Black power.
That's right.
And that's what we're going to do. I want to encourage all my African and colonized people to obtain their guns. We got to protect ourselves, and this is also why Black Hammer is starting its own gun club and self-defense club.
Shout out, Comrade
Here
Daniel.
he is. Shout out to Conrad Daniel, who's leading the Black Hammer gun club. I'm sorry. We have Will who says, hello, are you biologically brother and sister? No, but Black Power Kimya, thank you for sharing, Quayshawn. Thank you for sharing, Red. Thank you for sharing, Robert. Black Power Window. Cher says, show me how visions of indigenous and black decolonial praxis. Illegalism is revolution. Red says, take what you do best and do it for your own people. Dr. John Hernick Clark. That's right. Thank you for sharing, Gigi. Thank you for sharing, Daniel. All right, Black Power. Okay, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and move on to chapter 12. Just want to put the reminder out there that, again, you can support Black Hammer. You can support the Revolutionary Book Club by going to GoFundMe.com/BlackHammer or donating through there. You can also donate directly to the book club through CashApp by donating at the $BHBookclub. And you can also go to blackhammer.org and donate through blackhammer.org as well. So we can keep the Revolutionary Book Club going, so we can keep Black Hammer going, and so we can continue to fight for our liberation and freedom. Black Power. So chapter 12, which was I enjoyed. It was long, but I enjoyed it. Yeah. I enjoyed reading it. And basically Huey opens up by saying first that the only reason why he began to study law is to become a better burglar. And I mean, it's no shame in it. So he just basically talks about how he's reading up on all of these different laws and things of that nature. And he also says, like in the first portion, that the California Penal Code says that any law which is vague to the ordinary citizen, the average reasonable man who lives in California and who is exposed to the state's rules, regulations, and cultures, does not qualify as a statute. Now that was kind of. Do you understand that?
Basically, if the average person can't understand it, then it really shouldn't be enforced.
Oh, okay. I got you. So yeah, he speaks about that and how this knowledge that he was getting through studying all of these different laws and things, it was equipped to him to be able to commit petty crimes, because we understand that while Huey is in school at this time, what he valued most was being able to be at home, reading different books and things of that nature. And for him to be able to commit petty crimes and to have, some source of income coming in, he had more leisure time. And at this moment, that is what, he really wanted. So he just basically speaks about all of the different crimes that they used to commit, how they would go to, different neighborhoods and stuff like that, and how they would even rob cars like in broad daylight. And just like broad daylight. They carried it out. Yeah. I mean, so let's see. For one example, he says, we burglarized homes in the Oakland and Berkeley Hills in broad daylight. Sometimes we borrowed a pickup truck and put a lawnmower or garden tools in it. This is so smart. I'm sorry. So smart. Then we drove up to a house that appeared to be empty and rang the bell. If no one answered, we rolled the lawnmower around to the back as if we planned to cut the grass and trim the hedges. Then swiftly, we broke into the house and took what we wanted. So then he goes and he speaks about how they would break into cars and things like that. And also this whole credit card scheme, how they would get, if they knew small business owners, right? They would get the small business owners to say that they had employed Huey and his friends for like maybe 5 years and all that kind of stuff like that, just so they could go and open up credit lines with all of these different stores. So they would go, get the credit line open and then charge, like max the card out and put down like a $20 payment on the card, and then just never, just never follow up. And it's, I believe for a reason for us why it's so comical, because we know people who've done this shit. We know people who do this shit. But it's almost, like you have to just laugh to keep from crying, because this is the type of stuff that we have to do to survive. Yeah. We have to do this stuff to survive. And it's no way that you could tell me, you have all of these people come and go to school, get an education. So what are you supposed to do in the meantime? What are you supposed to do in the meantime while you're collecting this education and things of that nature? Because poverty is how do you say? Poverty isn't something that is just going to go away because you went to school and get an education. Poverty is like here in the right now, like in this moment where you have to face a crying 3-year-old that you can't feed. So you're going to feed them books for an education? You're going to feed them this education that you're getting? Or
I'm going to have a job maybe when I finish this program, but what you going to eat today?
Like, poverty is immediate. That has to be addressed today. And how can you address poverty? How can you feed that starving child? How can you get Pampers? How can you pay that phone bill? Is to go to these white wealthy communities, break into houses, steal what you got to do.
Or some other means.
Yeah. And then even if we you got a job at McDonald's or Burger King, you trying to do the right thing. You trying to go by the 9 to 5. But even that $7.50 an hour is not going to be enough to adequately address the needs in the home, especially when you're living steeped in poverty.
And isn't it great how they love to romanticize how hard we have to work? Oh, you're such a hard worker. Look at you struggling every day. Why the fuck am I having to struggle every day? And your white ass is just sitting here. You can call your dad. You can pull from savings. You can pull from all these stocks and bonds that y'all have and everything. And you're romanticizing the fact that I have to fucking struggle? Oh, okay.
And I'm gonna just say that, Africans and some colonized people might front when they go away to school, but the poverty is just as real in school as you getting the education as it is you being back at home in poverty. It does not change. It does not change at all. So, also in this chapter in which Huey is talking about the short change game, which he was best at. This is where he made all of his resources mainly. And it's so fucking crazy. It's so motherfucking crazy that I didn't really understood what happened to me on my first job when I was working at Walmart. And he described exactly what happened to me. I was shortchanged. This was my first job. No, I'm sorry. I believe this was my second job. I was in high school. And I was at Walmart. I was working at Walmart. And this brother, this tall, he had like, maybe he was his nephew or something with him. So he comes to my register and he's blind. Like, the brother's blind. Like, so he lays out all of these bills on the counter. Like, I believe it was like 20, it was like 520s or whatever. And he's asking me for change. So I'm just like, okay, that's fine. I'll give you some change. So he gives me a 20. I'm counting out the change. He was like, don't do that. Let me get change for this right here. Or let me get change for that, like, right there. So I'm trying to just, keep up with the request that he's asking me, not understanding that he's basically shortchanging me. And these motherfuckers fired me behind that. I got fired.
I hate that the brother did that to you. I wish he would have went through somebody else's line.
But it's fine. Seriously, I didn't understand exactly what happened until reading this goddamn chapter. And I was just like, all I was doing was just giving the brother change. And when they called me into the office to fire me, they didn't even explain to me that that's what happened. Robert says, that shit happened to me too.
Damn.
Yeah, and then the main object, I believe, in shortchanging is to get the cashier as flustered as you can so they don't realize and they don't pay attention to what happens. And y'all already know I'm kind of light in the loafers anyway, so I'll just be like, okay, okay. But he got me. But I mean, it don't really matter. But so in this chapter, what carries out for the majority of this chapter is when he speaks about getting caught up in this case behind some stolen books. And it's this white student who's accusing Huey of stealing the books, but Huey says that he didn't steal the books. The books were stolen, but then somebody sold the stolen books to him. But he didn't have anything to do with the books being stolen, so he decided to defend himself. And he talks about, just the satisfaction that he felt with being able to defend himself, because, when you defend yourself, you're not regulated by, the rules or stuff like that you see happening going on into court. And he even says that, you're able to say what you want to say, you can laugh if you want to laugh, and you can do, you can move how you want to, and nobody is putting words into your mouth. So this whole case that behind these stolen books goes on for a total of 9 months. And so he speaks about how the pigs even try to get this sister who works at a bank to say that Huey shortchanged her at the bank, and he's able to have the sister come into the court and testify and say that didn't happen. But he just lays out, like, around this whole bookstore case and stuff like that it was just simple harassment. And again, they had the dean of the school, they had the bookstore keeper, and all of these different forces, but they did not have any type of evidence to bring him up on any charges and stuff like that.
I love the way that he played that, and just the fact that he was studying the law enough to know his rights, as far as, I don't want to say rights because we know it's kind of an illusion, but that he knew how to work around the system and circumvent around all that bullshit to the point to where they couldn't touch him. And that pissed them off beyond degree. They couldn't even hang them up. And that's how you're dealing with somebody who's pretty intelligent with that.
And so later, also in this chapter, Huey speaks about this incident that he has with this brother named Odell Lee. And so as we said, at parties, you can find Huey, you know, giving out political education and stuff like that. And, you know, he said he almost compares it to, what do you call it? The game when you're, it's not captain, is it captain? Okay, yeah. So you know, like how you play, you know, your mama diss jokes and all that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is what he's comparing it to, and he says that instead of getting into fights about jokes about your mama, you are getting into fights about different ideologies and different ideas, you know, that we internalize as colonized people. And at this one party, he gets into it with Odell Lee, who is this brother, you know, this regular on the street brother. And so him and Huey get into this debate. And at one point in the debate, Huey turns his back to Odell, and he doesn't think anything of it. But at this point, Huey is eating a steak, you know. And so each time he turns his back, Odell is turning him back towards him, and he was like, don't turn your back on me. So it gets to the point that Odell turns him around, and Huey assumes that Odell is getting ready to pull out a pocket knife, so he takes his steak knife and
Huey was nothing to fuck with.
he pretty much, you know,
yeah.
goes to work on Brother Lee or whatever. So he says that he doesn't think that Odell is going to call the pigs or whatever, but it's found out that, Huey feels that it was Odell's, I don't know if he says wife or girlfriend, that convinces him to press charges against him. So I believe that he is found guilty of what, you know, around what happened or whatever. And at one point, he's denied bail. But I believe this white lawyer that his parents get him, they're able to get him off with just like, I believe he says like 6 months
in the jail.
Yeah, from you know,
like he was charged with a felony, but they brought it down to like what you would serve for a misdemeanor, which.
So I mean, Trap the 12 is just pretty much, you know, of Huey just speaking about, you know, his everyday life and what he had to do, you know, in order to survive. So my hashtag read that back part comes again at the beginning of chapter 12, which is page 78, at the second paragraph, where he says, and don't forget to put your hashtag read that back parts in the comments for chapter 12 as well too. So he says, later on, law enforcement courses helped me to know how to deal with the police. Before I took criminal evidence in school, I had no idea what my rights really were. I did not know, for instance, that police can be arrested. My studying helped because every time I got arrested, I was released with no charge. Until I went to prison for something I was innocent of, I had no convictions against me. Yet I had done a little of everything. The court would convict you if it could, but if you knew the law and were articulate, then the judges figured you were not too bad because your very manner of speaking indicated that you had been indoctrinated into their way of thinking. And I think that was very deep and profound for me, because, you know, some of us, we have relatives or, you know, friends and family who may be very articulate, and you can see them in these types of situations where they're able to out-talk, you know, these white authority figures and things like that, you know, versus our brothers and sisters, you know, who shouldn't have to sacrifice some type of dignity in order to, you know, it just makes me feel that, you know, as black and colonized people, that we have to put on some type of front, or we have to put on some type of show, you know, for white power to make them understand that we have some type of dignity or some type of couth about ourselves and shit like that. When, I mean, at the end of the day, none of that shit, it does not matter. It does not matter. And, you know, like how Huey says to speak that it's an indication that you've been indoctrinated with their way of thinking. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's bullshit. That's absolutely bullshit. And we see that, you know, when we enter into white spaces, you know how you got to put on that white voice. Or if you going for an interview or something of that nature, you got to put on, you know, some type of airs about your stuff like that. And that's an attack on our dignity as black and colonized people. Like, who the fuck are white people for us to have to put on some type of persona for them to make them think that we're thinking individuals, that we have some type of smarts or some types of shit like that. Like, fuck all of that. Fuck all of that. Fuck all of that.
Absolutely. All of it. Well, I wanted to start out with the quote at the beginning, the very beginning of the chapter, where it says, what is property? Property is theft. I like that. And then also on page 90, it said, after they're talking about the outcome with the Odell Lee case, he said, I was found guilty as charged, but only because I lacked a jury of my peers. My defense was based on the grounds that I was not guilty, either by white law or by the culture of the black community. I did not deny that I had stabbed Odell Lee. I admitted it, but the law says that when one Caesar feels he is in imminent danger of great bodily harm or death, he may use whatever force necessary to defend him. If he kills his assailant, the homicide is justified. This section of the California Penal Code is almost impossible for a man to defend himself under unless he is part of the oppressor class. The oppressed have no chance. For people who sit on juries always think you could have picked another means of defense. They cannot understand the danger. And the reason I picked that was because the illusion that we would ever get a fair and just trial with people who, one, don't understand the way that your community would operate. Because what Huey was pointing out was that white people do not know the rules of black culture or the black community and what we would find to be justifiable or non-justifiable. So who are they to sit on a trial and come back and say, oh, well, we don't feel like it was justified that you hurt this other black man who knew you or knew what he was doing to provoke a situation, whereas people from that community, actual jury of your peers, would have. And they would have justly been able to decide whether Huey would have been guilty or not. So I think that's because how many, probably 99%, I don't know of any juries that, you know, when black people go and actually have their case heard, they're actually heard by a jury of their peers, which is why we should never anticipate that we would get a fair and just trial.
Right. Black Power. So let's see what's being said in the comments right here. Black Power, Erica.
Black Power, Erica.
She says, I did do my reading, but I didn't do... I didn't do my reading, but I'm here about to go to the African American Day Parade in Harlem. Support for all political prisoners. Black Power,
Black
Erica. Quayshawn Elliott says, it's true. They love it. They eat it up. Yes, like you a damn charlatan or some type of puppet for these goddamn motherfuckers. Hell to the fuck no. Black Power Chikonde. Black Power Muhammadu. Black Power Stephanie. Robert, like... really, the white people got your resources, so really, you taking your shit back.
Taking my shit back.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Alright, y'all, so we're going to move on to chapter 13. And I can say, honestly, that this chapter was... I don't know how to feel about this chapter.
I was pretty ambivalent.
Yeah.
After reading it, too.
So...
Yeah.
Chapter 13, which is entitled Loving, we have Huey, you know, speaking about his relationships with women. And so he speaks about Richard Thorne, who basically has this theory of non-possessiveness when it comes to relationship. Oh shoot, we got a donation. Thank you, Sarah.
Black Power. Thank you, Sarah.
Black Power. Yes, Black Power. So, I think the reason why this chapter was so hard for me, it wasn't hard, but it just, it exasperated all of these different thoughts that I'm already having about what it means to be in a relationship as a colonized person. And I can say that I unite with like 85% of, you know, what Huey is speaking about in this chapter. And just to give, based upon the theory, I'm going to read what he says. So, and he's speaking about Richard Thorne, and he says, his theory of non-possessiveness in the love relationship was appealing to me. The idea that one person possesses the other, as in bourgeois marriage where she's my woman and he's my man, was unacceptable. It was too restrictive, too binding, and ultimately destructive to the union itself. Often it absorbed all of a man's energies and did not leave him free to develop potential talents, to be creative, or to make a contribution in other areas of life. This argument that a family is a burden to a man is developed in Bertrand Russell's critique of marriage and the family. His observations impressed me and strengthened my convictions about the drawbacks of conventional marriage. Now, the only thing that I have a gripe with is that we understand that the African and the colonized woman's contribution to the family, you know, cannot be, you know, overlooked. And when you think about it, it's almost, I mean, just how it's defined by colonial society, I feel like the woman's burden to the family is, I want to say, almost more than what it is to the man. And if I'm being contradictory, comrade, please, you know, call me out and let me know. But I just don't like that it doesn't speak to also what the African woman and the colonized woman goes through, you know, in a marriage, in, you know, building and raising a family.
Well, I'm going to point out something too, because Huey, throughout this book, he speaks a lot about his father and what his father has contributed, which was a lot. He speaks a lot about the fact that his father worked 3 jobs to support them. We haven't finished the book yet, and he does mention some of what his mother has done, but it's not nearly
to the magnitude
as
of
much
his father
as what he talks about with his father. And Huey later discusses, you know, even with that philosophy that he's talking about, there is a level of exploitation of African women there.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, that was one of the things that kind of raised my antenna and stuff like that. But I believe that the majority of the things that, you know, just my whole idea of a relationship is shifting. Like, really, it's really shifting. And I think I unite with the non-possessiveness part, because you shouldn't want to be in a relationship to possess somebody, and it has real material implications, because when you look at the history of marriage, especially within, you know, the feudal European society, when white women were married to white men, they became the property of those white men, and anything that white woman possessed then it came under the ownership of the white man that she married. Versus, you know, the more communal process that we see within, you know, traditional African societies on the continent, and even, you know, even here within America and other places where colonized and African people might be, you still see the traditional type of communal type of relationships between, you know, the couple's families and things of that nature. The only thing that I find a gripe with is just being able to be with someone who might, you know, have other relationships with other people. That's the part that I'm kind of having, you know, like.
So what is your gripe about it? You feel like it should be that's something you're leaning towards, or that you? Because I'm kind of feeling some type of way too.
Because I don't know if I don't want. I don't like the idea of my partner being intimate with somebody else.
That okay. So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I have a hard time. I'm having a hard time with that too. And
but I guess what's for me, why I'm so conflicted with that is because if I don't want my partner to be intimate with somebody else, am I really being non-possessive of my partner?
I think I'm looking at it like this. If we both agreed that we were going to enter an exclusive relationship with one another, it's more about that's what we agreed to do. Mm-hmm. This is the type of relationship we both want. Mm-hmm. At any point, either of us can leave that type of relationship. Mm-hmm. I definitely don't believe in anybody being forced into a relationship they don't want to be in.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this. So, if they came to you and was like, it's this chick that I'm feeling. Mm-hmm. I might want to get down with her.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
If we entered that relationship with the understanding that neither of us would step out, mm-hmm. then I would have issues with that. I would respect the fact that they're bringing it to me mm-hmm. rather than just doing it. Mm-hmm. But I would have issues with that. Based on what I know I would want out of a relationship. That's me though.
See, for me, it's like, it's almost like a sliding scale. I don't know. Like, mm-hmm. if my significant other was to come to me and tell me that they wanted to be intimate with someone else, mm-hmm. my immediate reaction would be, I would be upset. But I feel like, just like how you said, like, if it's laid out in the beginning, if the terms is laid out in the beginning and y'all have the understanding, it's fine. But do you base that understanding on you wanted to make your partner happy? Or do you see my mind, y'all?
Not with me. With me, it's this is what it's gonna be. Uh-huh. Like, I'm not gonna, my relationship is not gonna be one where I'm gonna enter where I'm gonna say I'm not going to be okay with you sleeping with other people. Mm-hmm. That's just me, and that's because that's the type of relationship that I'm after.
Yeah.
If that person that I'm feeling does not have that same feeling, then we can agree to disagree. We can be cup buddies if mm-hmm. that's what it's going to be. Whatever. I mean, but it's just like that's the understanding. I just believe in being honest and being upfront about it.
I gotcha.
That's me though.
I feel like we can have a whole show on that, but we're gonna get back. We're gonna get back into this chapter. I still want to talk about it some more, but it's okay.
Too.
So yeah, but like the point you made earlier, how Huey does lay out in this chapter that this way of thinking, can be exploitive, and like he says, he had women giving him money. They was cooking for him, cleaning his house, and all of that other type of stuff like that. And then he also goes into the history that he had, when he got into the pimp game, because he was pimping for a little while, and he just speaks about the guilt that he experienced, both from pimping black women and white women, and he says that. He felt guilty about pimping black women because all he could think about is, the slave experience and, slave masters raping, black women, who were enslaved. And he says that he felt some type of way about pimping white women because it wasn't a feeling of shame, but it was a feeling of guilt because he felt like he had then become the oppressor. And so he speaks about coming close to marriage with this one sister by the name of Dolores, and he describes her as being this free spirit child woman who lived with a passionate intensity, and he just describes her as being this unique woman in that that he was really in love with her. And that, if he was to get married, that she could have possibly been the woman that he married. But he wasn't able to, he wasn't able to commit, and they did end up splitting apart. And he talks about this very tragic incident where one night he brings another woman over to his parents' place, and Dolores is there, and he goes out with this woman, but when he comes back, he finds out that Dolores tries to commit suicide. And he just says that his experience with Dolores just reinforced, and I'll read it, that my conviction that demands two people make upon each other can be crippling and destructive. No matter how much they love each other, the values of our society conspire to add intolerable pressures to a binding relationship. And I mean, I believe that is so true. It is so true when you place into context, like, you know, these societal pressures that a man is supposed to live up to, that a woman is supposed to look up to. And I think that's even the basis why we would even have to create a theory about non-possessiveness to combat, you know, this situation that colonialism, that white imperialism, you know, has placed us in. And it's like we want to communal relationships is new to us now, but it's not new. The constructs of marriage and you know all of these different ideas, that's what's new to us, especially as African and colonized people, because we were already living in communal relationships. We already knew what it was to, you know, have, you know, polyamorous, you know, relationships and stuff like that. You know, what's new to us now is this marriage, this man having to do this, the woman having to do that. The man has to be the provider. The woman has to be the submissive, you know, keeping the home. That is what's new to us.
Gender, yeah.
That's what's new to us. So, I still think we should have this discussion about, you know, traditional relationships, and maybe we could have a special book club so we could have so we can have that discussion. But one principle that I really unite with what Huey says earlier on in some chapters prior to this, you know, when he speaks about intimate relationships, and I believe it's by Richard Thorne that he says this came about too, but he says that a relationship should be based on friendship and shared experiences, which makes a lot of sense to me. I can really unite with that, but it's just, I don't know if I'm willing to just allow my partner to be out here with anybody. I think
it's a lot. Like I said, I think it's what both people going into the relationship go in with, what they expect from it, and just kind of a mutual respect there. But I do unite also with the fact that he said that this, what we were just talking about, what colonial society has infringed, like forced on what a relationship like that would be. Even if you want a monogamous relationship, the fact that it has to be that, you know, it shouldn't be that if somebody leaves that relationship or wants to leave that relationship, that can leave somebody else in a totally disabled position. And that's something that colonial society does it can totally debilitate somebody else, or the feelings that we go into a relationship are sometimes totally unrealistic. And that can sometimes add all types of exacerbations on what we're gaining when we're leaving these relationships, rather than being able to leave a relationship and be in a position to where you can bounce back and you can heal. And colonial society makes that impossible, or makes it very difficult to do.
And just even, and I definitely unite with everything you just said. And then even to think that we as colonized people, African and indigenous people, we can't tailor our types of relationships the way the colonizer tailors their relationship.
I can't.
Because in any event, you're talking about two colonizers who entered this relationship on, you know, the same level. I mean, having the same access to resources, having the same access to societal wealth, having the same access to different opportunities for work and different things like that. When you have two African people, two indigenous people who enter into a relationship based on survival. If this sister has a place for me to stay, food for me to eat, of course I'm going to be with her. Even if it's a toxic relationship when I'm abusing her, put my hands on her and stuff like that. She's going to stay with me because as a man, I bring her some type of sense of security.
Yep.
I'm a companion for her. But it's not the same. And I mean, like, all of that.
Or even think about relationships where they are based on friendship and all the right things, but then you go in because you both have to work, you both have to make a living, especially if you have children, you have to do that. And then think about if one person loses their job and the pressures that puts on a relationship. You know, one person is out of work, or both of you lose work, and then the types of strain that you're going to be feeling, frustrated because you can't survive, and then your relationship is going to suffer in the meantime.
Exactly, Quayshawn. Exactly. The Prince Charming fairy tale BS really sets us up for this.
Girl,
you don't understand, like, that has been, listen.
Girl.
That's a whole nother episode, because seriously, white power tells you that you're going to have this happily ever after, that this Prince Charming is going to come and save you and all of this other bullshit. I'm a victim of that. I'm a victim of that type of thinking, like this whole hopeless romantic type deal, like it's all bullshit. And I can really say that has led to my singleness for a long time.
Well,
but anyway, so let's get to this hashtag read that back. But we gonna have to plan that episode.
We are.
We're gonna have to plan the episode. So this is my hashtag read that back part, and it comes on page 98 at the bottom. The last paragraph, it says, these contradictions have been solved by the values of Black Panther Party and by the party's communal life. The closeness of the group and shared sense of purpose transform us into a harmonious, functioning body, working for the destruction of those conditions that make people suffer. Our unity has transformed us to the point where we have no compromise with the system. We have the closeness and love of family life, the will to live in spite of cruel conditions. Consciousness is the first step towards control of the situation. We feel free as a group. We know what troubles us and we act. Bourgeois values define the family situation in America, give it certain goals. Oppressed and poor people who try to reach these goals fail because of the very conditions that the bourgeoisie has established. This is the dilemma. We need a family because every man and woman deserves the kind of spiritual support and unity a family provides. Black people try to reach the goals set by the dominant culture and fail without knowing why. Black
people. Yeah, that was something I had highlighted too. There was a lot of things in here that I highlighted throughout this chapter. We already talked about the exploitation of women and everything, and like you said, we could just have a whole episode around this conversation. I did highlight the very last paragraph. We choose to live together for a common purpose, and together we fight for our existence and our goals. Today we have the closeness, the harmony, and the freedom that we sought for so long. And I just want to know more about what that looks like. That's what I found myself. One of the ways I found myself leaving this chapter was I wanted to know kind of what that layout looked like.
Yeah, because it did make me question, like, what about, like intimate relationships, that one-on-one type, intimate relationship.
Yeah.
And I want to say that this is where I'm at. Like, if my partner was to come and tell me that they wanted to be intimate with somebody else, I feel like I would allow them upon my participation. But if they wanted to go out and do it individually, I think for me that's where the problem comes in.
Yeah, and I like. Okay, so like, no.
See?
Okay, so like, okay. My spouse and I have been together for 15 years.
Girl, 15 years? Okay. And y'all ain't never thought about...
Now, she has always said, she never really agreed with the institution of marriage, even when because I was a Bible thumper, and I wanted to be married, and I wanted to, and even though I've moved away from the Bible thumping and I'm no longer a Christian, and there are lots of things that have changed, the condition was, she said, if you ever think that you want to have intimacy with somebody else, all I'm asking is that you let me know that. And I told her that would never happen, because I my relationship, I'm not saying this for everybody, I feel like I want a monogamous relationship, and I still want that.
Black power will save a girl. And
so it's hard, because it's like, am I going based on what I know because of colonial society? And and I'm happy with my partner. I don't want to change that, but I do believe that people have, like I said, when you go in together and you put something on the table, it's more about the trust and kind of what you agreed on in the beginning, and that can always be changed or ratified, and conversations are had. Like, it's no fixating, but it's just like, I'm like you, I just don't know that I could that I would be okay with somebody else
They can't do it individually. They just can't. If I'm not involved, if my partner wanted to have, like a threesome and stuff like that, I'll participate, but I can't. I wouldn't be able to. Without
you being there. And I just feel like there's other things that can creep in, and trust and things like that.
And that's not to say that you can't have some type, of course you want to respect the individual that you might be bringing in to participate. But at the end of the day,
because there's feelings, there's emotions, and then people get attached. That's okay. I mean, I'm gonna give you an example.
We gotta wrap this up. But go ahead, Conrad. Go ahead.
So, like, one example would be something like surrogacy. Okay. You've heard of like situations where, people have a surrogate come in and they want to have. So then there's, when you're carrying a child, whether or not you develop a bond. And that's one of the things, like, sometimes it's not that other people can't be caregivers for the child, but it's more like sometimes you develop a bond that goes beyond what you might have. It's just those things potentially happen. The bonds that we develop with our children, or with people that, even if it was something where we were raising a child for a time frame, and then something happens where that person can come back and get their child, and you've developed this bond that goes beyond that. There are human feelings and emotions that happen, and sometimes it's just doesn't always go as planned. And when people get sexual experiences, those are really intimate to me.
I think that's true.
Not to everybody, and it's just,
that's true.
I feel like there's so much more that's being said with an act like that, and especially, it's like I said, it's the way I'm wired, and then colonialism plays a part in that.
See, that's why all these answers lie in the revolution, because when we free and we're self-determined, we can determine what our relationships will look like.
Yes.
We can determine that.
Yes. We definitely need to have an episode where we hash all of that out.
Well, let's jump into these comments real quick before we get out of here. Onyx says, Polyamory takes hella trust and authenticity. Most people in this generation are not capable of being respectful. That's true. That is true. Let's see here. Stephanie says, me and my boyfriend are polyamorous. For us, it's about how we know one person cannot fulfill our needs 100%, especially because I'm bi. Jealousy comes up, but I realize I'm responsible for working through my own insecurities. So wait, is that insecurity on your part, or?
I mean, if jealousy is, yeah, because, I mean, like I said, I think it depends on what you go into the relationship and what was laid down in the beginning. She said they're polyamorous, so that's a...
Yeah. Erica says, yes, I gave up on that. I have expectations based on concrete language and communication with my partner. Okay, yes. Let's see. Erica also says, that means we're not exclusive and I'm going to use condoms and start dating other people. I don't have time for that. He can rock out and you know what it is when that type of combo happens.
She's got a point there.
Hold on, let's see. Yeah, I can't do the poly thing. There's health risk pertaining to that. People who can, good for them, but I ain't one of those women that can do that.
That was the other thing. We didn't talk about it.
Oh,
I was thinking about it because there are health risks.
That's true. That is true.
And precautions you should be using.
Yes. Hashtag read that back. Stephanie says, different cultures use the same words with different meanings. All belong to one society, yet live in different worlds. That's true. Well, we're gonna have this. Oh, okay. Stephanie says, hashtag read that back. The contradictions have been solved by the values of the Black Panther Party. In the party, we formed a family, a fighting family that is a vital unit itself.
That was a good chapter. I mean, I think it was good for the conversation. And
well, we're gonna have that discussion. But anyway, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for the donation that we got today. I just want to go ahead and let you guys know that we won't have an episode of the Revolutionary Book Club next week Sunday. Excuse me. My grandfather passed away this past Thursday. So I'll be traveling home tomorrow for the funeral and just to be with, my family and things of that nature. And so, I won't be here. And I know Comrade Nyah has an engagement on that Sunday as well. But just know that when we do return, it's going to be chapters 14 through 16. So again, if you don't have the PDF and you would like to follow along so you can participate in the discussion, please hit us up for the free PDF that we can send you. You can hit us up on Facebook at Black Hammer, and you can also hit us up on Instagram and Twitter at BlackHammer.org. All one word, both for Twitter and Instagram. So if you're watching and you want to know more about Black Hammer and how you can become a member,
you can hit me up. Black Hammer, as you can see, we're doing all types of great things. The book club is just one of the many things we're doing. We have a newsletter. We have a social media team that's banging. We got a campaigns committee where we're doing all these awesome campaigns for our children, anybody that is being brutalized by the system in any way. We really are about fighting for the community. and all we want to do is grow. So those committees that we have, we want to multiply and exponentiate those. We want to build our gun club. We want to build all the things that you see in colonial society. We want to build that for ourselves, to the point to where we can rely on ourselves to take care of our own health. You feel like we're being exploited by the health systems. You are being exploited by the health system. So we want to build those types of systems for ourselves where they're not exploitive and we can actually get the healing we need. So that's just things that we can see off down the way, but we need people to join in order to make that happen. So you join Black Hammer, you can use your skills as a colonizer African individual to build your community. We're literally about that. So if you want to join today, please go to blackhammer.org, select join. We will be in contact with you from the membership department. I got a badass membership committee.
Black Power.
And we will contact you. You can drop a fist in the comments if you're interested, and we will tell you, we'll give you the link for you to sign up. And you can do that for as little as $5 a month.
Black Power. All right, y'all. So not next week, but the week after next, we will be back. Until then, make sure you read your chapters so you can participate in the discussion. And maybe when we come back, we can allot some time to this whole discussion about relationships and stuff like that.
And don't forget to tell us what's on your bookshelf.
Yeah.
We want to know what you're reading so we can get ideas of other things that we might be able to read. But just let us know what you're reading, and we'll talk about that. And
I think also going forward, what we should implement is a question and answer portion for the book club as well too. So if there's anything that you comrades would like to know about us, Black Hammer, how we feel on certain things that we see happening right now within society, we need to have that type of discussion as well too. So
absolutely. Until
next time, stay black, stay proud, and join Black Hammer.
Join Black Hammer today.
Black Power, y'all.
Black Power.